Okay, fellow YouTubers, hot rodders, people of all sorts. Let's see if you can understand what I'm doing. This is a, I believe it's a 70 to 78 GM 4-speed Saginaw transmission. So I got it at Mansfield or the Tweeter Center, Great Woods. Xvinia, whatever the hell it's called. It's Great Woods. Anyways, it's a swap meet this past Saturday. What was that? May 12th or something like that, 10th or whatever. It's one of the best car swap meets I've ever been to. It's the biggest one I've ever been to. So here it is. I've been looking for a Ford 4-speed transmission. Not a top loader. Not a T5. T5's a weak. I've had so many people tell me that they had bad experience with them. I don't see any on the road here in Connecticut because most people, they can't afford to drive, or they can't get insurance, or something's always busted. I drive these cars all the time. So I was thinking, hey, let's put a Chevy transmission, you know, behind a Ford engine. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not the first to done this. I think NASCAR rule is that you have to run the same transmission in the field to make it fair for you know, drivers. I'm not really sure on that one. Again, I believe that's one of the rules. So I actually picked up a bell housing that is required in circle track racing. It's called a quartermaster bell housing, and I've done some research and I figured out that that's what it does. It actually mates up a Chevy transmission to a Ford engine. I'm going to show you what that looks like, so give me a minute. Okay, let's see if you can get this on camera. This is an aluminum one, I believe. The other one that I have is magnesium. Most of them are magnesium. There's a part number right on it. And I checked into it. This is made by Quartermaster. I guess they call it the qualifier or something like that. I'm not really sure. They have provisions for sleeves or a throwout bearing, but we won't use that. The pivot's already in here. These are top quality, and the prices on these brand new, they range average prices over $300 to $500. This thing is bomb proof. I know a lot of people racing, you know, you have to use a McLeod. One of the biggest things, this is going in a Miata. So one of the projects that I've seen people do, several people, they always use the McLeod or I forget the other name, but Summit and Jag, all those aftermarket companies have the steel bell housings. And some tracks require you to have an explosion proof. This right here is explosion proof graded. So the first one I found, I paid $50 for it at the swap meet. The guy didn't know what he had. I didn't know too much about it, but you can tell the way it looks because of this here relief. When you see this on a bell housing that's magnesium or aluminum, then you know that you have a Quartermaster NASCAR qualified bell housing. Now I checked into this, again, did my research. This mounts, you can put a standard Muncie 4-speed on it. It bolts right up. The problem is this here opening. You can go through the company or other companies and get a reducer, but I figured out a way to do that, and it only takes right around $40 and 5 minutes of your time on a lathe, and it's absolutely flawless, and it's bomb proof. It's absolutely awesome, and I'm going to show you some of that. So you could also adapt the standard Super T10 or T10 Ford transmission, which I can't find. I can't find any. What's available all over the internet and swap meets is these here Saginaws. The Saginaw bolt pitch is pretty much the same as a Muncie, except one of the bolt holes is off, very, very minute, and all you actually do is just open the ear up on the cast. You use the same bolt, or what I do is I actually enlarge the top hole with a 1/2 inch. I believe it's a 1/2 inch 13 bolt, or whatever you want to do. But I always go to 1/2 inch. You want to use metric, you can use metric. You don't have to. So I paid. This is my second one. I got this used because someone had TIG welded the flange holes up. So I got $100 in this. Again, retails over $300-400. So I paid $100 for this one. It bolts right up to the Windsor engine flawlessly. Perfectly, highly machined. Again, Quartermaster company. These bell housings are freaking awesome. My 49 pickup truck, my 49 Ford, I did the same thing in that. I put a 73 to 74 4-speed Saginaw Chevy transmission in that same bell housing behind a 5.0 Mustang engine, and it works. You don't even know. It's like butter. I have driven a couple cars and people driving around. I really don't know how they're driving them. Sloppy as shit, and you can hear things whining and clinking and all kinds of weird noises. When you do this, this thing is like aircraft quality. Literally, it's definitely aviation quality. So let's get into this. In order to get this bell housing centered with that transmission, you got to do two things. You know that on a Ford, your pilot bearing, I believe, is I think it's 5/8. This one is a little bit. One's either 9/16 or 5/8. I forget. I know Ford's bigger than the other, but in variations between a Chevy transmission and a Ford transmission, Saginaw, T10, Muncie, they're all 10 spline. I've checked the pitch on it. They're all the same length. The interchangeable parts, I know the synchros, everything's pretty much the same on these transmissions because one company made the same parts for the other company back in the day. No one's talking about this. Covers are the same. Your gear ratios are pretty much the same. You just have to know, where they go, which one's on what transmission with the numbers. I don't give a shit about numbers. Numbers don't mean squat when you're doing custom work. As long as you count your teeth on your gears, your first, second, and third, and fourth, it doesn't matter. 1 to 2, 2.54. Who gives a shit? It doesn't matter to me. I know you just want a nice graduation between speeds, 30, 40, 50, 60, blah, blah, blah. So 10 spline Chevy going into a Ford small block. It's actually pretty simple. Number one, this here nose, cone, retainer, whatever you want to call it. This is actually called in the proper language when this transmission was built in my rebuild book. That's 52 years old. It says right on it, front snout. Okay, I get into arguments with people. That is a bearing retainer. Yes, I got that. Proper name is called a front snout. That's what it's called. When you order new ones, it says right on the box, front snout. Matter of fact, I'm going to show you. This is an AC Delco NOS front snout box. It says right on it, front snout. And it tells you that it's also a retainer. It says right next to it, snout retainer. But I got this on, this is the second one I bought. The number, I found out the number doesn't mean shit. The part number is usually casted right in here. This is the number one thing. If anyone wants to do Chevy to Ford transmission and Chevy to, in your front number on the casting only matters if you can't find an NOS one. This is the second one I found. It comes out to $41, brand new. Still in the Cosmoline. Look at this. You can't miss that right there, hey. GM Parts Division, man. Look at that. So, got this delivered the other day. As soon as I bought the transmission, that following night I found one and I ordered it up because they're fairly scarce. What it is this was labeled as 86 to 87 Chevy G10 van. That don't mean shit to me. It's actually a 4-speed truck transmission front snout or bearing retainer. And this is why you need to get that, because on a Chevy car transmission, this is small. This is only measuring, I got the tape, I don't have the tape measure on me, but anyways, it's measuring a little over 4.5 inches or something like that. Quartermaster bell housings measure right around 5 1/8, 5 1/4. Depends on if somebody's, goofed it up. This one's flawless, so it's really nice, and the other one is too. So I ordered a front bearing retainer for a truck. If I was going to guess, I think it's like a K20, K15. Your heavy duty ones, D500s, things like that. That's a Ford. They'll use the same front snout on all the big heavy stuff. It's the same bolt pattern, same bushing, same retainer, same space, same pilot bearing that slips over to this. Now I've already chucked it up. I've chucked the snout up into my lathe already. So what you need to do is, since you're using all the same parts, including the bearing and stuff like that, you just have to put this in the lathe, the new one that came in this box, and turn this down to the same diameter as that. And that perfectly centers that bell housing to that transmission. Once you do that, you turn it upside down and you put your first two locating bolts, which is the bottom. You put your bolts in, you get that in. Your third bolt should drop right in, as long as somebody goofed it up. Didn't goof it up. This one's kind of goofy because somebody had re-TIG welded the bolts, so I might have to re-drill those. Once you get your 3 bolts in, come over here. In that last corner, you just knock the ear off just a little with the die grinder, and just put your bolt in. Cinch it down with some Loctite, and that thing is bomb-proof. It's perfect. There's no guesswork on it, and that's it. Now, the next step is once you get that, we got to find out how long this video is. So I'm going to get to the next step on the next video. This is video number 2. Chevy transmission to a Ford engine. Have a good day.